Rogers TV with our second edition of Bowl Predictions. We're 5-1 through 6 games straight up, 4-2 against the spread. Our objectives, regular season, 80% regular season straight up and 60% against the spread. This season, our numbers are in at 222 right and 44 wrong. 222 wins, 44 losses straight up. That's 83.5%. So we hit it right there at 83.5%. But against the spread, close your ears. 136 and 129. Had our worst year against the spread in 3 seasons of posting these videos by far, not even close. Our objective is 60% against the spread. That's 51.3% this season, capped off by an incredible run I had on Championship Saturday of 1-7 against the spread. If you've seen my predictions here, and you're probably shutting off the video at this point anyway, if you haven't, we do feel good about our confidence predictions against the spread. We pick out a game, 2, maybe 3 or 4 each week that we are extremely confident in beating the spread. We've done well. 46 and 21 coming into this season against the spread. 24 and 18, not so good this season at 57.1%. We'll still take it, although our objective is much higher than 60% against the spread in our confidence picks, 70 and 39 in 3 seasons. All right. Off to a decent start in the bowl games despite Ohio U blowing a 17, let's say 20-point lead against the spread in the last 10 minutes at 4-2 against the spread. All right, let's knock them out here. We've got some of the more difficult games because you've got power conference teams that are like 6-6, 7-5 type teams taking on the best teams in the MAC, the Mountain West, the Sun Belt, those types of conferences, Conference USA as well, and the America Athletic Conference, which we will put in the Conference USA category. All right, that starts with the Little Caesars Pizza Bowl at Ford Field, Bowling Green and Pitt. The Panthers are a 5-point underdog in this. Bowling Green's coach, Clausen, has gone to Wake Forest to take the job. He will not coach the team. The Falcons surprisingly won the MAC championship over Northern Illinois, 47-27, really dominated the fourth quarter in that game. Pitt played well against top opponents in the latter portion of the schedule, including the Notre Dame win by a touchdown. We like the Panthers to keep it close. Bowling Green wins the game, and this is difficult for us to do. Select a non-BCS conference team, even against a 5th or 6th or 7th place BCS conference team because of the level of competition. Pitt's used to playing the Virginia Techs and the Florida States and so forth. That said, Bowling Green wins it. They've got superior offensive production. Pitt is offensively challenged. Panthers, though, keep it close. Panthers plus the 5 in this one against Bowling Green. We've got a pick'em game surprisingly here. The prognosticators out there in Vegas know what they're talking about because Utah State's a very fine football team at 8-5. Northern Illinois coming in at 12-1. Came within that lousy fourth quarter against Bowling Green of getting back to a BCS bowl game. They were routed by Florida State by 21 last season. Huskies at 12-1, Utah State at 8-5. But this will be a very close football game. Utah State lost its dynamic quarterback, Chucky Keaton, early in the season. They played a rough non-conference schedule that included BYU, Utah, and USC. Weathered that. And again, Utah State lost the conference championship game to Fresno State by a touchdown. Their defense will get the job done. Garrettson, their backup quarterback, has done a fine job. And Northern Illinois loses this game in a pick'em game to Utah State. We like the Aggies here straight up. Okay, Marshall and Maryland. These two teams face off 27 miles from the Maryland campus at the Military Bowl. Marshall's got a dynamic offense, so I'm going against my trend and my inclination here against to go with the power conference team. I'm going with Marshall to defeat Maryland. Terps finally get back to a bowl game, first under Randy Edsall. But the Terps at 7-5 have looked awful against pretty marginal opponents most of the time if you run down the schedule, while Marshall has some fairly impressive showing against Virginia Tech in particular and some decent teams down the stretch. Marshall wins -2 over Maryland. Minnesota and Syracuse, ACC versus the Big Ten here should be an interesting matchup. The Cuse is a 4.5-point underdog. Minnesota having a fine season, surprising season at 8-4. Big wins over Northwestern when they were ranked, and also over Nebraska. We like Minnesota to win this football game at the Texas Bowl. Syracuse will keep it close enough. Minnesota's too challenged in passing the football to really blow out the Cuse. Syracuse plus the 4.5 points. Gophers win the game. Big game here. Washington, BYU in the Fight Hunger Bowl. Two pretty good football teams at 8-4, matched up against two of the better schedules in the country. BYU played Notre Dame and Texas, and a number of really good football teams, including Utah State and Wisconsin, and they held up against just about everybody. Washington was a bit Jekyll and Hyde at times. They opened the season with a huge win over Boise State by 32 points and followed that up again with some big wins, but also some very scratch-your-head kind of losses. Washington comes in at 8-4 with Keith Price at quarterback and one of the best backs in the land in Bishop Sankey. BYU rushes the football well. Jamal Williams at running back, 1,200 yards. The quarterback's got 1,200 yards. This will be running football for you. BYU and Washington. Huskies a 3-point favorite. So Steve Sarkisian has gone to USC. They will be coached by Marcus Tuiasosopo, their quarterback's coach. And interestingly enough, the Huskies, if they get the win, wrap up their best season since 2001 when Marcus Tuiasosopo was the quarterback. He also won a Rose Bowl and the MVP in the Rose Bowl over none other than Drew Brees and Purdue back in 2000. Huskies win it, covered the 3 points in a very good game against BYU. Notre Dame and Rutgers as the Irish opened as the largest favorite of the bowl season at 15.5. Things have calmed down in the Pinstripe Bowl. The Irish a 14-point favorite against Rutgers. The Scarlet Knights have shown me nothing against any decent teams on its schedule. I've seen this team play a few times. They're offensively challenged. Notre Dame's offensively challenged against really good football teams like Michigan State and Michigan to a certain extent, even though some people are going to laugh at that statement. But Notre Dame played a solid schedule when you consider, of course, Stanford and Oklahoma, and they were in all these games. Yeah, they had disappointing losses like the Pitt loss, which was kind of inexplicable, but still, Notre Dame playing a very difficult schedule will almost feel like it's playing a scrimmage against Rutgers. And I know the field conditions could be bad, but look back to last season. Syracuse routed a favored Geno Smith, West Virginia team 38-14 out there. Notre Dame will do the same against Rutgers. Irish win it, lay the 14 against the Scarlet Knights. Looking forward to this game. It's Louisville. It's Miami at the Russell Athletic Bowl. Check out our preview of this game with Cam Underwood of SB Nation, and it's exceptional. He gives some great insight into the Canes and Al Golden's building of this football program. We've got, again, Louisville and Teddy Bridgewater's last game with the Ville taking on his hometown team, Miami. This game loaded with exceptional athletes. Louisville, though, doesn't make the mistakes. They didn't play the competition that Miami did. This is going to be the best football team outside of Central Florida, possibly, that Louisville has faced this season. Miami started 7-0, number 7 in the country, then faced some tough teams, including Florida State, and showed us that they're really not up to that elite level, not even close to it at this point. This is going to be a really good football game, though. We like Teddy Bridgewater making less mistakes than Stephen Morris. We like Louisville's performance last season in the Sugar Bowl. We think the Cardinals have gotten over the loss to Central Florida and the disappointment of not making the BCS, and Bridgewater goes out in style. Morris does not. Louisville wins it in this one over Miami. Lay the 3.5 with the Cardinal. That is the Cardinals. Navy and Middle Tennessee in the Bell Helicopter Armed Forces Bowl, which finally has gotten Navy to play in its bowl game after 11 years, mostly of seeing Air Force 5 times. They've had Army in the game. Now they get Navy, so they can fully be feeling good about calling themselves the Armed Forces Bowl. Middle Tennessee comes in with some lackluster performances. If you look through the scores and compare the scores, Navy has played better against better competition. Navy wins the game. We're confident there. Not a confidence pick, but we're confident. Take Middle Tennessee plus the 6.5 points there. Okay, we've made all sorts of bowl predictions. We're through close to 20 games. We are finally going to make a confidence pick because once we get to BCS versus BCS conference teams, you look at our record, this is when we come through. And the first one here, we have a quarterback issue, and that's one of the big reasons why the Michigan Wolverines are a 4.5-point underdog in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl against Kansas State. The Wildcats played very tough against some of the better competition in the Big 12, namely Oklahoma State, namely Baylor. Michigan, up and down all season, got off to that great start in the win-loss column, although they struggled against the likes of Akron and Connecticut. They came down the stretch and they stumbled. They couldn't run the football against anybody, and they're not going to run the football necessarily against this Kansas State team. But we think Michigan's superior athleticism, 4- and 5-star recruits all over that roster. They showed what they could do against Ohio State, and we know Devin Gardner might not be on the field, probably won't be on the field, but the backup quarterback has received reps for the last 4 weeks. Michigan is prepared for Kansas State. They want to make a statement. We believe in Michigan talent in this game against Kansas State, similar to what Michigan State did against TCU last year. Michigan will take the 4.5 points. We will take it. Plus, we're picking the Wolverines to defeat the Wildcats of Kansas State. Call us crazy in this one. Without Devin Gardner, Michigan wins. Plus, we'll take the 4.5 points in a confidence pick. Okay, really good football game here in the Belk Bowl. Cincinnati at 9-3. Last game out for the Bearcats in the regular season. They lost to Louisville in overtime. So they can play some pretty good football at times, although the schedule was awfully weak. Before that, they missed Central Florida in conference play. And North Carolina didn't look like it's going to make a bowl game at midseason, but turned it on and played really well down the stretch, losing the finale against Duke 27-25. I really like North Carolina in this game. This one was very difficult to call, but I'm going with the Tar Heels despite the 6 wins versus Cincinnati's 9. And the Heels are laying 2.5 points in this game, so follow me here. North Carolina wins. I'll take Cincinnati plus 2.5. I typically don't do that, do a hedge type of play if it's less than 3 points, because most games are not determined by 1 or 2 points. But in this case, I'm going to take Cincinnati plus the 2.5. North Carolina wins the game. Couple more as we look at Ole Miss and Georgia Tech. They will play in the Music City Bowl in Nashville on New Year's Eve as well, or actually December 30th. And I love this as a confidence pick. The Rebels played one of the toughest schedules in college football coming out of the SEC West. They beat LSU. They took Texas A&M to the final seconds. The only team that really gave them a beatdown was Alabama 25-0, and that game was 6-0 or 9-0 at half. Ole Miss pounded Texas. They beat Vanderbilt, a very good 8-4 Vanderbilt team. This Ole Miss team is serious. Georgia Tech can't throw the football. I know that the option attack that they present is very different than anything Ole Miss has seen outside of maybe Auburn. Ole Miss did get to see this with Auburn, and they played Auburn tough. They played Auburn, who's playing in the BCS National Championship game, within 1 score. So I love the Rebels in this one. This is a confidence pick, if there is a confidence pick. I love the Rebels, minus 2.5 against Georgia Tech. Anytime it's the SEC and the ACC, and they're somewhat evenly matched. We're talking about I believe 3-5 Ole Miss team in conference taking on a 5-3 Georgia Tech team. But still, check out our post on this one as well as we preview the entire SEC Bowl schedule. Ole Miss minus 2.5 in a conference pick against Georgia Tech. All right, lastly, we've got Oregon taking on Texas in the Alamo Bowl. On the surface, the namesake, great game. Oregon blows out Texas, though, minus the 12.5 points. So take Oregon. The Ducks cover the 12.5 against Texas. Won't get into this one necessarily, as well as Arizona State taking on Texas Tech. And as badly as I don't want to lay these kind of points, and I didn't even write this down, so I'm picking this one off the top of my head. Arizona State taking on Texas Tech. That game is the Holiday Bowl, Arizona State and Texas Tech. Man, the Sun Devils, they really pulled it together at times. And when that defense has got it flying with Will Sutton and company, Arizona State's going to roll Texas Tech. Yeah, they're going to roll Texas Tech in this game. Take the Sun Devils minus the 14. It may be 13.5 at this point, but take the Sun Devils to rout Texas Tech. Those are the picks. We're 5-1 straight up right now, 4-2 against the spread. We hope to keep it up at like 70% straight up and 60% against the spread. We would love now to hear what you have to say. So tell us where we completely missed it. Again, our confidence picks. Michigan plus the 4.5 against Kansas State. Ole Miss minus 2.5 against Georgia Tech. Really lock in on those two. But tell us what you think about these bowl picks and what you think. Who's going to win? Are there any upsets out there? I only